All right, guys, welcome back again to the channel. As usual, back to let you know some of the stories making the rounds right now as they concern our players. So yesterday was a very exciting day for our players. In the Europa League, we saw a couple of games go down, and then we saw some great play from Kelechi Iheanacho, obviously helping Celtic to get that vital 1 point in their Europa League opener. He came into the match in the second half, substituted in around 46 minutes, and then scored in the 55 minutes. He was the one that got the opener for that game, but unfortunately, they would go on to concede a goal from their opponents. Anatovic was actually the man that scored the goal for Red Star Belgrade. So he ended 1-1, final score. By the end of the day, Kelechi continues his form. He's now had I think 3 goals, 1 assist in 3 matches for Celtic. So it's really fantastic. And then we saw the likes of Philip Otele performing as well for his Basel Football Club as they uh, were unfortunate to have been defeated by Freiburg out as well, in Europe. But the man, got on the score sheet, which is really nice to see. Of course, representing Nigeria very well for that match. And then Terry Murphy was also on the score sheet, scoring by a penalty as OGC Nice fell 2-1 short of AS Roma. Murphy continues to, get 1 or 2 goals here and there since he came back from injury. Scored a handful of goals, and obviously this is very good for him because it's going to build up his momentum. It's going to build up his morale, and then gets him to, gradually come back to the Murphy that we used to know, the prolific Murphy. But again, for the other guys, the likes of Omar Sadiq, we saw him get onto the pitch again after a really long time to play football. For his Real Sociedad side. Of course, you guys already know the whole story. Omar Sadiq hasn't really been favored very much in this Real Sociedad side. In fact, they wanted to sell him. They talked to a couple of clubs. Omar Sadiq himself wanted to leave to Valencia, where he spent last season on loan, but the club didn't want to sanction that move. Like maybe maybe the money that Valencia was tabling wasn't enough. So they didn't sanction the deal. So he had a really difficult time. He didn't show up. They didn't use him for preseason. They came into the league properly this season. 5 games or so have been played in the La Liga. He's not been used so far, but it was very, very nice to see that he was given a chance yesterday evening as he helped his Real Sociedad side to a 1-0 slim lead over Real Mallorca. We hope that this is the start of a continuous usage of this young man. He has so much talent. He has so much to offer. On the football pitch. We saw that last season when he was at Valencia. That's very wonderful goal that he scored using his back heel to call that one into the net. I think that was probably the best goal of the season in La Liga, or maybe a contender of the best goal of the season. So this man has a lot to offer, and he needs to be playing football match. We need to see him consistently on the pitch. But again, Wilfred Ndidi as well comes back into the pitch to make appearance for Besiktas. After staying out several weeks due to injury, an injury that he, as a matter of fact, picked when he was representing Nigeria. It was so good to see Ndidi back on the pitch. But while Ndidi was coming back onto the pitch, to represent, and while everybody's happy in Nigeria, sadly, Onyedika was going to injury because that yesterday's game, he was stretchered off after just 15 minutes of action. And it's really not good, the side of it. But again, we are still going to wait to see what Club Brugge are going to let us know about the severity of Onyedika's injury. But it seems like he might have hurt himself a little too much because he was not able to continue the game. But we'll see what happens. We hope it's not serious, as I said, because obviously, 2 weeks from today, we will be needing these guys to come and get the results for Chelle, in the last two games in the World Cup qualifying series. But let's move on, guys, and talk about some other things. Of course, Victor Osimhen has now been added into the match day squad for Galatasaray for this weekend. They have a game, I think on Friday's night. That's tomorrow's night against Antalyaspor, and Osimhen is is in the squad. He could very likely make an appearance for this match, or he could maybe sit it out and then come back to the field on Tuesday. But the important thing to know is that he's now included in the match squad, which has obviously not happened, in recent times. He's missed a lot of matches, I think up to 4 matches since his thigh injury that he had, representing Nigeria. But fortunately for Galatasaray, they've been winning consistently back to back in their league. They've played 6 games and won all of the 6 games. In total, I think the only place they had a setback was in Champions League against Frankfurt, where they lost, 4 goals to 1, even though they scored first in that match. But it's definitely going to be good to have a player like Victor Osimhen to come in, to help them after recovering from injury. But let's move on, guys, and talk about what's currently happening right now with the under 20 team. Of course, the last time we talked about them, I let you guys know, that they are now in Chile, where they will be playing their FIFA World Cup under 20 tournament starting from the 29th. It's just 4 days from today. We have our first game against Norway. So they've been playing some friendlies. The last friendly they played was against the host nation, being Chile. It was a draw. And then we had another friendly that we played yesterday. This time, the boys won it comfortably, 3 goals to 1 against Australia under 20. So this looks like, they are in good spirits, in good shape, in good physical, mental, psychological space to actually start this competition. We wish them all the best. Of course, we've had a couple of players who, had pulled out due to injury. We had a certain defender pulled out due to injury, and then Coach Aliu Zubero has moved on to replace these players who won't be available with, other very able and capable youngsters who he has now invited into the squad. So we'll see what happens. First match is on the 29th against Norway, and then on the 3rd of October, we have against Saudi Arabia. And then the last game of the group stages, we have a game against Colombia. So that's how it's going to be. If you look at the group, the tables here, you see we have some really interesting countries also competing in this tournament. So it's going to be very interesting to see how, how it goes at the end of the tournament. Let's see. Hopefully, we can win this one and then bring the trophy home back to Nigeria. But to wrap it up, guys, I just wanted to share with you what Samson Siasia, the legendary, uh, forward of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, has come out to say. He's been talking, a lot recently in the news, but I just wanted to share this one, which was what he said was the reason why he was kicked out of the national team at some point back in the 90s, I think, early 90s or mid 90s. Of course, Samson Siasia is someone that doesn't need an introduction. He's a legend. Most of us know him as a coach, with the Super Eagles and the age grade category. But also, before being a coach, he was a fantastic player for the team. Represented us very well. Most famously, the 1994 African Cup of Nations. He won it with the team, and then he was partnering with the greatest striker of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, the person of Rashidi Yekini. So that brings us to what Siasia has recently said. So he said the reason why he was kicked out of the national team during that period was, because he one time refused to pass the ball to Rashidi Yekini, and the coach of our side that time, the legendary Clem Westerhoff, decided that he was not going to play Siasia again. In fact, he kicked him out of the squad and refused to call him back. It was later on, maybe a couple months later, when Siasia, admitted that he had to fight and struggle his way, to get back into the squad. That was when he was later reinvited into the squad. But he's saying that he didn't have it easy with the national team. He faced a lot of challenges, a lot of troubles, because when you compare their time with current, current age now, you see that players kind of having it easier, with the way things are happening right now. It seems like these players are softer. So he's kind of comparing and saying that during his time, you get punished for some things that you would do and you would not even think is a big deal, and then you get punished massively. You have to deal with it. You have to come back strong, work your way up, work your ass out, and get back into the squad. So what he said about his toughest period in the national team, well, obviously when he was kicked out of the squad by Clement Westerhoff, he said, my downtimes first was when I didn't pass the ball to Rashidi Yakini and they had to kick me out of the team and I had to hustle myself back into the team. Trying times are always there to make you stronger. And then he continues, a lot of people talk about why I didn't pass the ball to Rashidi Yakini. The one I passed to him, he couldn't even score too. So things happen. We don't take it personal. I'm a striker. Rashidi Akini wouldn't give me the ball if it was him. That's the truth. Sometimes you miss, sometimes you score. Rashidi has been one of the greatest strikers I have played with. May his soul rest in peace. So basically, what Siasia is saying, you get punished for doing something you think is really small at the national team back in the day. But what we see currently is that players are being pampered, do all kinds of things, and they still get away with it. I think in a nutshell, what Sam Siasia is trying to compare here is that these new age players need to have a stronger mentality. They need to know how to, come back from criticisms. They need to know how to accept criticisms and work on themselves to become better, to come back stronger, because it's part of the game. That's the update, guys. Thanks for watching. Leave your reaction. As always, subscribe if you've not done so, and stay tuned for more videos.